If you're curious about DIY paint correction, you're probably very nervous about screwing up your paint, trying it for yourself your very first time. Today we're going to find out if these all-in-one polishing products combined with a soft pad can alleviate those worries. AIOs like these are supposed to be beginner-friendly and easy to use, they're a one-step process, and they're supposed to leave protection behind when you're done. Last November, when I was at SEMA 2023, I showed you a demonstration of this product from Vonixx. It was pretty impressive on a car hood, and today we'll see how it works out for me in my garage. And the good people at Renegade sent me their AIO, which is geared towards black paint. That's great, we're testing with black panels today, and we'll find out how it compares to the Vonixx product and see if there's any real difference between these two AIOs. Then to wrap things up, we're going to use the Meguiar's 105 and 205. It's really a basic heavy cut and then a finishing cut. Now we're going to try the finishing cut on its own. For the last step, we're going to combine both the heavy cut and the light cut. We're gonna scuff up and mar this black panel with sandpaper and break it up into 4 quadrants, one for each test. This was one of the test panels that I was gonna use in our videos, but I didn't do a great job painting this one. I am not a very good painter. I think we can call that sufficiently marred. We're gonna spray on a little isopropyl, wipe that up. Now I'm just breaking this up into sections so we can get a good idea of how the products work. For 3 of our tests, we'll use the soft pad only. On the final, we'll use a harder pad and a softer pad. The tool that we'll use will be the ShineMate EB210 that I reviewed in the past. I'll leave a link up here if you want to check it out. They did redesign this head and it's been working great. I want to start with this AIO that our friends at Vonixx sent us. I'm always curious how these sort of products work, and it promises to do a sealant, like a Carnauba ceramic sealant, on top of getting the paint cleaned up in one step. They're saying mostly medium to superficial scratches. This is fairly superficial, so we'll see how this works out. I'm gonna use a fairly low setting. That was 30 seconds of polishing. Let's take a look at where that got us. At 30 seconds, I think we are starting to see a difference. It is pretty easy to tell how much better this section is now, and that was pretty heavily marred. Let's give it another 60 seconds, and we'll find out if some of these scratches are just a little too deep. Look at that, we've really just got a few big scratches left. They're just a little deep in there. We're seeing a pretty impressive effect after just 2.5 minutes of polishing. Look at that, guys, that's so good. Really, really good. Now, this does add Carnauba and fill in a little, so we will look at what that looks like after some isopropyl alcohol. I need just 1 second of your time to tell you that there are affiliate links down below in the description to the products and tools we're using today. Clicking through and purchasing anything at all at the websites I link to will generate a small commission that helps me run this channel. Furthermore, if you're enjoying this video, remember to hit subscribe, hit like, ring the bell, and leave me a nice comment. We'll be moving on to the Renegade Black Paint Polish, and it's a very similar product to the Vonixx in that it claims to add protection and be a one-step, all-in-one solution. And we're gonna start off with 30 seconds, just like last time. And here's where the Vonixx ended up. And here's 30 seconds in, and then if we look on this side, we can see just how bad the untreated is. So big difference in one step. Here we are against the Vonixx. We can tell there's still quite a bit of scratches left, but again, we're only 1.5 minutes in, and here we are against the untreated, and look, we can tell how much better that is. I'm gonna turn up the speed 1 notch, and we'll do another minute. 2.5 minutes in, and I think we're starting to catch up to the Vonixx in terms of finish quality. Not quite there yet, though. Here we are at 3.5 minutes, and I think it's safe to say that it doesn't cut quite as strongly as the Vonixx AIO. Now we got the old standard, the Meguiar's 205. A lot of people have used this. I go to this product quite a bit when I just want a really quick finishing polish. No fancy stuff, just one hit. Let's do it and see how it compares to these two AIOs. We're gonna start with 30 seconds, just like before, on the lower speed. Here it is compared to the Vonixx. We're gonna bump things up to 60 seconds. Here we are after a minute and a half, and compared to the Vonixx, it is starting to look pretty good. That's not bad at all. Here it is compared to the untreated, and look, it is making a big difference. We're gonna bump up the speed, and we're gonna give it one more minute. After 2.5 minutes, the Meguiar's 205 is doing quite well. Here we are after 3.5 minutes, and we've got our Meguiar's 205 right here. Maybe it's actually a little better than the Vonixx. They're very close though. I think they both still have some defects that I think we'll be able to take out with a harder cut. Now we're gonna go through a 2-step cut. So we're gonna go for this 105, the Ultra Cut compound. I'm gonna use a slightly heavier pad. I'm gonna give this stuff a minute and a half to work, and then we'll see what another 2 minutes of this will do. It'll still give us the same 3.5 minutes, but we'll see if switching up and using 2 products is better than 1. So there's where we've been just working. Maybe not quite as nice and clear because it is a heavier cut, but man, it got a lot of the scratches out in that minute and a half. We'll do 2 1-minute runs with this mirror finish. That's looking really good to me, guys. Still some scuffing and scratching where we got deep scratches. This is the final stopping point for the 105 and 205 combo. Here's what everything ends up looking like after wipe down. Now I want to see if these two are hydrophobic at all, so let's spray them a little bit. I'm kind of curious. And we can see both of these are definitely showing hydrophobic properties. Spray on some isopropyl alcohol to remove any compounds or any of the sealants that we may still have on there, and then take it off with our towel. We're gonna have hopefully very little of any sort of compound left over on there. So after everything's said and done, I think the Vonixx AIO, which is down here, looks fantastic. Compared to the Renegade AIO, there's a lot less stray marks. Like I really can barely see some, especially when you get away from a little bit of a distance. Over here, the Renegade just didn't quite deliver the same. And here's the Meguiar's 205 on its own, where we did it as a single step. And I think it's so comparable to the Vonixx. It's looking so good, and I'm really having a hard time telling you which one is better. I think they're both just really good. I would tie those two together. And then finally, we have the combination 105 and 205, and I think that gave the best overall look, especially when you bring the panel back. To me, that one just looks the best. Now, I can actually continue using that heavy cut. I can actually use a heavier pad, and I can get rid of all of this. So here's the panel how I would polish it, which is a full heavy pad like this with the 105, followed by a quick blast to the 205 just to get that last sheen. With the test completed, I think AIOs are a pretty interesting option. We've clearly shown that 3.5 minutes of polishing with an AIO can help restore even really poor paint. I don't think either of these AIOs will be ideal for heavy scratches if your car has some very serious paint damage in it. I think that is where a multi-step product will come in. However, it's very impressive what these can do, and I think you'll be very happy with the results if you have superficial swirls and scratches on your car. You don't have to use a heavy cutting pad, you're not spending all that much time, your materials are really limited to one type of pad and one type of cutting agent, and the results you get are, I think, pretty impressive. I also think it's interesting that these products have built-in protection, and we might test that in a future video. I think the Vonixx overall gave a better finish. It had just a little more cutting capability, which resulted in an overall better quarter in that panel. However, we also saw that the Meguiar's 205 on its own gave very comparable, possibly even better. I think it's really hard to judge, they were really close, but very good results on its own as well. And then combining the 105 and the 205 in the same time slot also gave us even better results than either AIO. However, that does increase material cost, and there is some time in switching pads, as well as some time in extra cleaning you'll have to do, and you gotta be a little more careful with heavier pads and heavier cuts. So from a beginner perspective, the 205 on its own, I think, is also quite interesting. So I think the question we have to ask, why use an AIO instead of something like a 205, very basic, finishing, like ultra finishing as they call it, as Meguiar's calls it, polish. Why not just use that? And I think both have their place. The reason you might want to use the Meguiar system, whether 105 plus 205 or the 205 on its own, or a similar multi-step system or a similar finishing polish, is if you're going for a ceramic coating at the end of it. I don't think you'll want to use an AIO and then put a coating over it. I think you'll likely not get the best bonding possible if you go that route. It's just not the way that I would go if I was going to coat my car. However, many of you aren't choosing to do coatings. Not everybody's going to a coating. Just because you're not coating doesn't mean you don't want a polished car that looks great. So this is where I think the AIO really shines. If you're a paste wax, spray wax, liquid wax kind of guy, you take this AIO, you put it on your car, you do the polishing, and then you wind up with some built-in protection until a few weeks or months later when you go back and you apply your favorite product. While if you were using something like the 205, you would then have to have another step where you came in and applied something to it. So I think both products have a reason to exist. If you're feeling a little braver, I would definitely go for the 105 and 205 combo with a medium and light pad, or even a heavier pad if you're willing to brave that. Wet sanding and other advanced techniques and very heavy cutting pads can definitely come into play too, but it's not necessarily something I would ever recommend a first-time DIYer to play with. I did actually play with wet sanding a little when I was much younger, when I was first getting into detailing, and obviously I do wet sanding all the time right now. However, it was pretty nerve-wracking to try it for your first time when you're, 23 years old, barely afford your car, and you're gonna go ahead and wet sand a part of it and then polish it. Definitely scary moments. I feel a lot of you when you're first starting to detail and now you want to get into paint correction. So try it out first with those soft pads, with the easier compounds, and then kind of work your way up to things like wet sanding. If you're watching for the first time and you're new to my channel, I do a lot of these really in-depth product testing videos for detailing, as well as general guides and how-tos. I do a lot of car mods, car project builds, as well as some repair stuff here and there. I think if you're into cars, there's something here for everyone. So if you have enjoyed the video, remember to click that subscribe button, click like, ring the bell so you get notifications, leave me a nice comment, and most importantly, catch me again in a future video.